Glenn, clearly you're an expert when it comes to course creation. You form part of a team that sold more than 1,000 copies, generating over 1 million in revenue. You've been interviewed on various shows, including Course Launch Summit, hosted by Russell Brunson. So clearly you're an expert and you've achieved a lot of success when it comes to course creation. My question to you, how can someone that is starting out or looking to start out in course creation achieve this kind of success? Is it still possible, in your opinion, to achieve success through course creation?
Yeah, let me put a little bit of context around those wonderful things that you said about me. I work for a guy called John Morrow, who's an incredible guy. If you haven't heard of him, it's worth Googling him, but really short bio. He's got spinal muscular atrophy. He can't move from the neck down. And he basically has built an online empire around his writing skill, his entrepreneurial skill, literally with his voice dictating into the computer, creating up teams. So I worked with him for 6-7 years. He's a brilliant marketer. He built up a email list of around 100,000 people, all interested in writing, blogging, content marketing, that kind of stuff. So really over the course of about 7 years, I started off as a lowly instructor on one of his programs, a program that I'd actually bought. And then we got on well and I kept taking on more stuff. And by the end of it, I was running the business day to day. But in the middle, I was creating courses in his voice. I would script them, he would read them, I'd pull the knowledge out of his head. And those courses went on to sell. Yeah, some of the courses had 1,000+ students in. It was a 7-figure business, and almost all of those revenues came from courses. So I should say John made the big marketing promises, did the marketing, and I was the guy behind the scenes that kind of had to deliver on those promises, delight the students, make sure we got good results, low refunds, those sort of things. So my slightly glib answer is, if you want course success, pair up with somebody who has 100,000 people on their email list. It's a lot easier that way. If you're doing it for yourself, as glib as that answer is, if you're doing it for yourself, it really does help to have an audience, but it depends why you're creating a course. I think a lot of people see that headlight figures of these big numbers, what you can potentially earn, but they often don't see behind the scenes and what was already in place for a course to flip that money switch, as it were. So I would say it's still possible, but it's not a magic bullet. You don't just add a course to no business and suddenly create a 6-7-figure course business. There needs to be something behind it. But I still think courses in the right context are a brilliant way to leverage the audience that you have, or grow your business, or open up your business to new areas.
Yeah, that's very good. You get to see a lot, as you said, a lot of claims like create your course and you start making 10K a month, which clearly it's a claim that, you're not going to achieve, as you said, if you don't have a business, irrespective whether you're an expert in an area, because you definitely need someone to sell it to.
And there's a bit of smoke and mirrors as well. I don't know if people know this, but you often see a Facebook ad and some guy's showing his PayPal revenues. Hey, look, I made 10K this month. I made 20K this month. What they don't tell you is that's revenue, and they maybe spent 18 or 19K on Facebook ads to get that top line revenue. So I think a little bit of healthy skepticism is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. You have to understand what's the story behind that ad or behind that claim. Let's put it this way.
Exactly.
When it comes to strategy, because this, I believe, there are two ways when you're looking at courses, right? You can look at the course. Okay, I'm going to create a new course. What is the best approach? Is it to expand your revenue in the sense of you already have a business and you're going to add another offer to your business? Or what is the best way how to position it? Or some others, they are using courses in order to grow their influence, get more people into their ecosystem. So how do you see courses? Do you see them as a revenue generator, or as more as a lead generation?
That's a great question, because I think the answer is they can be all of those things, but you need to know what type you're building. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. When I left John's business, and he and I are still on very good terms, I think we're even talking in the next couple of weeks, but I went from the luxury of when I was running his email list, if I sent out a marketing email, it would, like I say, it would go to a lot of people. And then I left and I still had the same experience and some of the same connections, but my email list was non-existent. Okay. I had maybe 5 people. So what I did was I created a course. I plowed a lot of my experience into that course. And I went back to John and I went to a client who had had a decent sized email list. And my pitch to them was, just created a course about course creation. It's like a fast-paced tour through my knowledge. And I can tell you hand on heart, if I built that same course for my old boss, then he would have charged at least $500 for it. And I could say that honestly because I knew the types of courses we were building. I was building the same types of courses. And because that was a nice offer to those people, it made them look good to be giving something of value away to their audience. I got 500 email subscribers almost from a cold start. And yeah, I had some advantages. Obviously, I had my knowledge and experience. I still had some of those old contacts, but I was still able to use that course to get more subscribers. I paid $100 for an ad on somebody's newsletter. That brought in 50 subscribers because the core offer, $500 course for nothing, still held value. So it can be a really good lead generator. Another way I look at it is that you might have heard people say, oh, a course must solve a problem. And normally what they mean is that a course must solve a problem for its intended audience. So maybe the problem is you're a bit heavier than you want to be, or that you don't have this skill that you want. And that's the problem your course is helping you to solve. I think courses should solve a problem for the course creator. So for instance, maybe that problem is I get people coming to me for help, but they can't afford my one-to-one coaching. And I don't have anything cheaper to sell them. So they just walk away and that's just lost revenue. So a course can be a really good solution to that problem because maybe you say, look, here's a one size fits all solution, but it's £300-400 or dollars rather than £4,000. It's 100 rather than the thousands to work with me directly. So it's that entry level offer. And there's 3 or 4 use cases where a course is the perfect little solution, but you do need to know which one you're trying to build. Don't build a lead generating course and then think it's going to make you $100,000 because it's not. They're different types of courses.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I get to see a lot of people doing this mistake. So what's the aim? Is it to generate leads? Is it to grow your revenue? And that's also a very interesting thought, like in order to create another offering, which is in between your existing offering, in order to either upsell people, downsell, instead of people walking away from your business. That's a very good insight. And that's something that I think a lot of businesses can potentially use this approach because they have an audience and it might be they are still on the fence on the high ticket offer and they can first convert them onto this mid ticket, so to speak.
Or you can create a hybrid offer where if you're a coach and you normally put a lot of effort into working with people, you'll probably find that there's some things you talk about with everybody, whoever the client is. So if you have a small course that you only give to people who are coaching clients, instead of going through, I don't know, a discussion about values, for instance, if you're a coach, you might have that discussion with everybody. You could say, okay, look, study module 2 in my course, make some notes, and we'll talk about it in our next call. And your course is doing some of that work, that coaching work, or at least the foundational stuff for you. So maybe you're not selling your coaching offer for more money, but it's taking you less time to deliver. So you can take on more clients and you're scaling, basically.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's very interesting because, of course, yeah, can help you also on the delivery side of things. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you have to figure out just before you start actually compiling your course.
Yeah, you touched upon something earlier, which I think is also really important. It's not right for everybody, but this idea of maybe creating a course to build your reputation and your influence. And something like that can be really powerful. But again, don't go into it thinking that it's going to be a money spinner if it's more of an influence builder or an impact course. If you spent a long time building up like a signature method, a process you take people through, a brilliant way of giving that its own identity is to create a whole course around it. And actually my own program, that's my long-term plan, is that before I had a program, I was refining my own process that I take people through to build a course. Then I built some material around it and I coach people and I walk them through that hybrid approach. There will be a point at which they can enter it and do most of the work themselves and get a little bit of support from me. And then the really big end game is maybe that whole process, I could license that to other people who build courses for other people. So you're teaching the process and I'm not involved at all, really. So if you've got a core method, a signature process, a course is a really good way to cement that.
That's very interesting. So you actually, when you're building a course, you actually involve potential clients in order to get feedback and to get data. Walk me through that process. Why the data that you capture during this beta, can we call it like a beta program? Why is it important when it comes to creating courses?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going through the second phase of a beta cohort at the moment with my course. Really, I think doesn't matter how knowledgeable you are about your topic. It almost doesn't matter how many people you've helped through that topic. Your first attempt at building a course around it is going to have some gaps, some misconceptions. Sometimes there'll be holes. Sometimes there'll be points where you over explain something. Sometimes you might include material that you love talking about, but isn't really necessary for people to get the end result. The other pitfall is you might get so caught up in the act of creating your course. Oh, this video isn't quite good enough. I haven't got the lighting right. I said, you disappear for months. And then actually, it's only when you first put it in front of people, you realize that a video that you agonized over for half a day isn't needed, or people hate it, or you realize it just isn't part of your process anymore. So it's really important as soon as possible to get some of those thoughts in front of people. So I say record really simple videos. There's a baseline format I teach, which is, if you imagine the simplest possible PowerPoint presentation, literally text slides, a heading, bullet points, text, just that. Use a tool like Loom, where you've got your webcam in the corner and you talk to camera and you use the bullets as a launching off point. Nothing particularly revolutionary about that, except I find that because you're a small image on the screen, the lighting doesn't have to be perfect. The eye contact doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get everything just right. And because you are on the screen, your slides don't have to be particularly fancy. There's enough interest across those two things to keep people engaged. So I say, get 10 lessons out there using that really basic format, lead a group of students through. The offer that I make to them is I say, look, it is an early program. I don't have testimonials yet, but here's the thing. I'm going to give you 50% off the end price. You will get the full course for its lifetime without any extra charge. You'll get to work much more closely with me than future students will, and we'll make this the best thing it can be together. And some people will say, I don't want anything that new. I'm going to wait until it's got some testimonials. But some people will love that idea of being part of the process. And so I've got about 5 or 6 people at a time, and they're all paying because I want them to have skin in the game, but they're really an active part of that process. And they're the people that will really give you feedback. I've got 68 pages of feedback from the first time I ran my course. It's almost too much feedback, but it's great for improving the next version.
Yeah, definitely. This is a very good process. I like the way how you described it, like literally keep it simple, stupid, just do it. Because a lot of people, they start a lot of things. It happens also to me. I'm guilty as charged. I say, yeah, I have this new idea. I want to try this out, this new method, or I want to give value through this channel. Let's say creating a course. I never actually sit down and actually go through it into its entirety in order to get it done. So definitely keep it simple, stupid. And you're onboarding clients. And I think this is really important that you onboard paying clients, not give it away for free. I love that concept because when you give stuff away for free, people don't appreciate that much. Maybe they are not committed because they haven't paid. So even the feedback, you have to be wary on the kind of feedback that you get from those who are not paid clients.
Exactly. That's a really good point, because most of us can have people in our life that will do us a favor. Your friends, your relatives, you say, oh, I need somebody to come in and kick the tires on my course. But chances are they're not your exact target market. Their motivation is a little bit off. I think the favor should go the other way. That your beta students should feel like you're doing them a favor by giving them access to all this great attention and this material at half the price. If they feel like they're doing you a favor, then they're going to drop out, or they're going to skimp on the feedback, or they're going to give you the feedback that they think you want to hear rather than the feedback that you need. So I think that's super important. And it's a real test of whether they're serious. I've had calls where people go, I'm definitely interested. This is perfect for me. And then they don't pay. So that's just life. But when that money appears in the bank account, that's when you know you've got a committed beta student.
Yep, I totally agree. And I really like also the process of beta. I am a founder of a SaaS company. And as a technical person, I am a technical person. We tend to do this mistake very often, more often than others, I believe. We tend to focus way on perfecting something rather than just ship it and see and get the feedback. We tend to focus on a lot of things, tend to focus on stuff like scalability when we really don't even have the first client. So first and most important thing is deliver that course, get some feedback. People might like it, people might not like it. You can move to something else. You haven't wasted your entire life. So that's really important.
Exactly. And years ago, my early career was in the software game. I used to be a software guy too, and you had it drummed into you that don't try and anticipate the future and build it so well that it can take huge amounts of traffic. We don't even know if one person is interested in it yet, let alone 1,000.
Yeah, definitely. I want to touch upon AI
Sure.
because this is a trending topic. It's a very hot topic. And most probably anyone who's tuning in know that through the various tools that are out there, they are new tools on a day-to-day basis. It's advertised that you can create a course like using AI in minutes. What are your thoughts about this, about AI? Is it gonna be a game changer that it's gonna affect course creators? Is it gonna be there to help them, to assist them in creating even better courses and deliver them in a much more higher quality? What's your opinion about this?
Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation. Obviously, it's hitting every industry at the moment. And through my last role, I'm still in contact with a lot of writers, freelance writers, and obviously it's a big game changer for them. What seems to be where the dust is settling is that you still really need to know your stuff. But if you're smart with AI, it can get you places faster. So an example I've heard from the writing world, or trying to teach writers to be better, where a lot of writers get stuck, is they're not great on structure. If they have a first draft or a structure, then they breathe a sigh of relief, and the actual nuts and bolts of pulling sentences together, they're fine with. So AI could give you a rough structure to start with. On the course side of things, there are now platforms advertising one-click content creation. So it will create the first version of your curriculum. And as amazing and powerful and mind-blowing as that is, I can't help thinking it just means that everybody can do the same thing. Everybody's course is going to look pretty much the same. So if you're one of those people who maybe doesn't have a lot of unique knowledge and sees courses as just a quick way to make a quick buck, the idea that you could create something competent fairly quickly and get it out there, I think in the short term is probably good for you. You're marketing up against lots of people who've done the same thing, but it's good in that respect. But I actually see it as a good thing, because part of what I teach is that there's no knowledge that one person has that your target market can't learn somewhere else. So the question then becomes, if I can learn it in lots of different places, why should I learn it from you? And then that starts to bring out your own characteristics. So I try and put some humor into what I do. I try and do things very bite-sized. I spend a lot of time distilling things down into frameworks that I can explain in about 5 minutes. Now, not everybody likes that, but if you like learning that way, you might want to learn course creation from me rather than from somebody else. So I think AI has lifted the baseline, but it means we've all now got to just be, I don't want to sound too corny, but not the best that we are, but the most individual, the most unique we can be, and bring out that personality. And I've used it for really weird stuff. Like I wanted to populate a course platform with a load of dummy users so that I could do a demo without giving people's real names away. So I went into ChatGPT and I said, generate a list of 20 people, first name and last name, with 100-word bio, and make sure it crosses a wide range of cultures. And honestly, in a second or two, it just regurgitated these names. And that would have taken me a couple of hours to come off the top of my head. So I think it's brilliant for that kind of stuff. And it will also script lessons for you. But again, I think you need to edit them a lot. Use it for a structure and then bring your personality.
Yeah, definitely. It's there to help you, but you touched upon the character and the personality. And I think that's going to be more valuable than ever, because
Yes.
now that everyone is going to use these tools in order to speed up writing, speed up course creation, so on and so forth, the personality it's getting more limited. So people will start craving time and personality, the way how you deliver your content. You mentioned upon the way how you deliver your content in buy side. That is something that I want to ask you about. What is, when you're designing your course, what is the ideal way how to do it? Is it to be intensive? One day you have to go through all of the content, or in a week, or should it be spanning over a couple of days and you go through a module each day, or you split it into several modules and sub-modules in order to this
Do you mean from creating the course or consuming the course?
Consuming the course, how should you structure your course to best optimize it and to get the best engagement? Because that's another problem that I would like us to discuss. I've read a lot of course creators, the feedback that they get. One of the problem is engagement, people following through the material, even paid clients, in order to get them to follow through till the end, the material. So what's the ideal from your experience? What's the ideal structure in order to get to deliver your expertise and get people to engage with the content?
Yeah, so I think working for John at Smart Blogger, and most of our customers were individuals who wanted to maybe leave the job and become a freelance writer or something like that. So you're dealing with an individual who's probably paid for the course themselves, which is very different to creating a corporate course. You imagine that you're working for a big corporate and they tell you you've got to take the derivatives course. If you get bored with the derivatives course, you have to suck it up because that's your job, right? Your boss is going to be annoyed if you walk out halfway through. So actually, a lot of corporate courses don't have to be that interesting. Some of them are, but they don't have to be because people have to take them. But if you've got somebody who's spent their own money, who's probably gone in a little bit skeptical because they've seen lots of marketing from other courses and they're wondering whether they bought the right one, they could drop out at any point. You've got to win them over at every single point. So obviously you've got to win them over with the marketing, otherwise they're not going to buy. But once they buy, the first thing they see once they're inside of the course, you want to win them over again, because you hope that they're thinking, oh my God, I'm so excited, I've just bought this course. But most likely they're thinking, oh my God, I've just spent $600. Have I made the right decision? So you need to remind them why they've just made an excellent choice and hark back to everything that was in the marketing. And then I like to create really short bite-sized videos that are fun, or as fun as they can be, because then to get somebody to dip back into your course, they only need a spare 5 or 10 minutes and it feels like it will be enjoyable. Whereas sometimes I review courses and I get in there and the first video is like an hour long and it's just a load of text on a screen, or it's somebody going through an app. And sometimes that's necessary, but if the thought of doing a new lesson makes your heart sink, you're going to drop out as a student. So I try and create courses where you can nibble little bits off of it in whatever time you have in the day and make progress. And if people want to do a lot, then they can binge. They can do what we used to do with DVD box sets. They can sit down and watch 20 lessons in one go if they want to. But if they don't want to do that, just over a coffee, they can make a little bit of progress. And to me, that's what keeps people, one of the ways to keep people moving, make it easy.
Yeah, and I think even to go back to the content. So let's say I've been through your course till the very end. I got a lot of lessons. That doesn't mean I can remember all of them. I just know that I've learned a lot of good things through Glen's course. And when I want, I can come back and say, okay, how did he solve that particular challenge? I know that he had a solution for that. And I can just go through, rather than if it's a huge 3-hour course, you have to find the right timestamp where
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is very interesting, and this is something I think a lot of course creators, I've bought hundreds of courses in different niches, and this is something that I think it's an afterthought, because most people, they think it's a win once they get someone through the door and they purchase their course, when really and truly you mentioned something really, I really like that you have to win them over and over again for various reasons in order to deliver upon your promises, and also be able to get them, grow them into loyal clients that potentially they will even refer. So it's something that I do, and even be able to come back and consume your content over and over again. So this is really interesting.
That's a really good point you raised, because it's something that a student said to me who was much more from the corporate world, and it really stuck with me. Is he'd just watched a course by somebody else, and he said how much he loved the course. But the weird thing was, it didn't make him want to buy another course. It made him want to work with the guy who presented the course. I love how you think about things. I want to work with you one-to-one. So if a course is doing that for you, it's selling you. Not everybody wants to offer one-to-one services, but I've also had that when I had people that had done my free course, and I think in my courses I come across, I'm coming now, I don't really have any other ways to be, but people find it easier to then buy something because they think, I already know what it's going to be like to work with you, and I know that I'll be okay with that. So it does that selling for you, and I think that's super important. I'll tell you a very quick little story. When we used to launch big courses with John, we'd come to send that first email, or the cart would be closing, or we'd run the webinar and John would be doing all of that. And the marketing team, John and the marketing team go, yeah, it's a success. We've had X% people who have bought. Hey, it's a success. But as the course creator, I was like, it's way too early to say if it's a success. I want people into the course and see how they're reacting, because it's no good if you sell 200 seats and 50 of those people refund because they're not getting on with the material. So everybody has those different perspectives, but a success really is you sell it, they love it, they get the result, and maybe they even refer you to other people. So it's a longer game.
Yeah, definitely. And even as you mentioned, most probably will have future courses, and you want to tap into people buying other stuff from you. So that's also really important.
And some people there's nothing wrong with this. Some people just love owning and studying courses. They have no intention of getting the result, but they just love information, like those people with huge bookshelves. They love buying books. They love flicking through them. Do they ever do the thing that the book is teaching them to do? Maybe not, but they get that pleasure and they feel like they've had good value for their money.
Yeah. You mentioned the free course.
Yeah.
And you do have a free course. The question is, when you're designing your course, so clearly the free course is there to generate leads for your business. You want people to start a conversation with you, or to get to know you, and then eventually either work with you, or as buy another course from you. How difficult it is to strike a balance between over delivering in the free course, that you will basically tell everything and give out your secret sauce, and you don't have anything else to sell.
Yeah, I think that's a paranoia that we all have. And I'll be honest, I think with my course, because I knew I had a couple of contacts that would promote it for me, I was really focused on giving as much value as possible so that I could put a dollar figure on it and feel comfortable about that. But I think now that I've exhausted those contacts for that course, I wouldn't build as big a course. It was 20 lessons of 5 minutes each. So what's that, an hour and 20 minutes? That's a lot for a freebie course. I think people like it, and I've set it up so that if they don't study, if they miss a week, they get kicked out of the class. So it's like a speed thing. You got to stay on the bus or the bus explodes, which is fun. But I think it's too big. And I do genuinely have that issue now where my main program teaches some of the same stuff as the initial. What happens with the free course is it covers a lot of ground at quite a shallow level, and the main course goes a lot deeper and gives you tactics and techniques and templates and all of those sorts of things. But I would go shorter and tell them what to do, but not how to do it. That's the classic piece of advice. You might say, these are the 5 steps to achieve, I don't know, a popular blog. but you don't really tell them the nuts and bolts of exactly what each step involves. But you're still being valuable. At least they have a process. They could Google that process or each stage and work it out for themselves, but you're not giving them the low level stuff.
Yeah, that's, I think, really important, because otherwise you will be giving away everything for free. Or else it might be that you're targeting, your business might be targeting, like, you're helping people to get to a certain stage, because
Yeah.
eventually you want to work with those people only who have reached that particular stage, and you're not really interested in helping one to one, or you don't have enough time in order to serve that huge community there.
It depends on your model, really. There are models where you just sell the same information at different prices, but people value different delivery mechanisms. Like I mentioned to you before we started recording, I used to be a comedy writer about 5 years, was into all sorts of writing. I went on all sorts of seminars about writing. There's a guy called Robert McKee, who's famous in Hollywood, and he's written a book on story, and it's one of the Bibles about how to write story for a screenplay. And he was in London. He's an American guy, lives in LA, obviously, but he was in London, and you can do his story weekend. It's 2.5 days. And at the time, it was about £300. The book is $9.99. The first thing he said when he got up on stage was, I hope you don't think there's anything over this weekend that isn't already in the book. I'm going to teach you the book. But people want to learn from the guy. They want to be able to ask some questions. They want to meet other people in that who have that mindset. So it's the same material and you're not learning anything different, but the way you're learning it has additional value to you. And I think the same thing is true with courses. You could take a self-study course and charge a certain amount for it, and then charge 3 or 4 times as much for that same course, but in a more of a mastermind context where you're meeting other motivated people and getting to ask questions.
No, that's definitely, there are different ways how to sell your expertise in different formats. That's definitely. What's your opinion about combining a course with a community, and how to create that feedback loop where students who are going through your course content, or who have been through your course content, so they are loyal clients, hopefully happy clients, they can help others, learn from others who are going through the content, and maybe share insights, because any course in any industry, in any niche, it's something evolving, something alive, or hopefully it is alive, because the scenarios change on a day-to-day basis in some industries more than in others. So how do you see the community vis-a-vis the course? Is it important in the way how you teach your clients how to create courses? Do you combine the two? What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, it's a really hot topic, because the way I see it is you've got these two slightly different worlds. You've got the world of online courses, where it tends to be there's a curriculum, there's a clear end result you go through in a certain order. And then you've got the world of memberships, where it might be more long-term. They're designed so that people don't get a specific result. They maybe enjoy a particular interest. So perhaps a course in the world of running, a course might be how to prepare for your first marathon. A runner's membership program might cover all sorts of distances, experience levels. You want people to stick around, so you don't want them to get to a point and then disappear. So they're different aims. One tends to be one bigger price, and a membership is obviously like a recurring thing. And in the middle, the bit that connects them is this idea of community. So you can have a course with a community, or you can have a membership program that has some course-like content. And you'll see all the major tools are trying to get a bit of both. Like Circle, which has been brilliant for communities, has fairly recently added course features. Kajabi, which is one of the biggest course platforms, it had a very basic community option. It's within the last year, it's bought a whole new piece of community software that it's integrating. So all these tools that were firmly on one side now want to be everywhere. And I think the trend is more for experiential courses where you are with a group. So in my small group programs, I do have a very small community that's just there for convenience. People can watch each other's course videos. I can post updates. I can give feedback, but it's not a vibrant community where there's like daily posts happening, for instance. It's more of a mechanism to communicate. If you've got a bigger community, you can really start to get that buzz. But the challenge is when you're starting your course, you don't want it to be like a ghost town. So it works best, I think, for people who've got an audience. They do a big launch, and then you've got maybe 100 people in the community from day one, and it has that kind of buzz about it. So I think it's really important. And I'll give you one exception. Do you know, there's a guy called Justin Welsh who's doing very well at the moment, and he's got a couple of courses. One is called the LinkedIn operating system.
Yes.
Basically about building your, So he has got a course which I love to reference because it's really solid, very good information, but it's not a huge course. It's maybe a couple of hours of content. It's basic videos, as I like. It's him in a hoodie, just talking to some very basic slides. There's no community. There's no real support. There's not like a monthly call or anything like that. But it has a low price point. It's about $150. But I think he recently posted that he'd cleared about $4 million from that and one other course. So he's got a low price, totally self-study, which is going against the grain, but it's good and it's fairly cheap. And it's got hundreds of 5-star reviews. So you look at it, and if you're even slightly interested in LinkedIn, you're going to say, how bad does it have to be to not be worth $150? It's probably worth $150. So you can go that way, but the trend I'm seeing more is this cohorts of people going through the experience themselves. There's a thing called Ship 30 for 30, which is a program about doing small bits of writing and finding your voice via Twitter. And that program seems to be going gangbusters at the moment because people love that experience. And you wouldn't get that with a self-study course.
Yeah. So we mentioned the AI, we mentioned the community. What other trends at the moment do you see in the industry of course creators? Anything? Maybe we can wrap this up after this question. What are the trends that someone who's going into course creation or someone who has been doing course creation, in your opinion, what other trends do you see upcoming in the course creation world?
I think the days, if they ever existed, the days where you just create a course, stick yourself in front of a video camera, pick a popular topic and put it out there and hope that it will sell, those are long gone. People are more skeptical about courses. Most people have bought a course and then not used it. And I don't think they necessarily blame the creator of the course, but there's a certain skepticism about the format, perhaps, if you're totally left to your own devices. It really goes back to the point about making it more of a journey, more of a human experience. There's another guy, a guy called Tiago Forte, who is all about this thing called building a second brain. It's about how do you collate your knowledge in a way that's searchable and linked. And it's a very interesting, it's nerdy, but it's a very interesting area. But he has a course and he just runs cohort after cohort. So I think he's up to at least 16 or 17. I don't know how long they run, maybe 8 weeks, something like that. So he's on this constant cycle. He's talking about it. He's talking about when the next cohort opens up, people are getting a great experience from it, but they also then, I think, will drip into a community. So you're building the community with this sort of moving train of cohorts. And so not only do you have the advantage of an open close promotion because it has a fixed start and end, but you also are building this kind of movement in a way of all these people that are trained in that style. They get to talk to each other. So even if they weren't on the same cohort, they're then in this bigger pool, which presumably keeps the community going. So I think those sorts of courses are becoming more and more popular, and they're quite personality led. And the other thing is that the creator has this mindset of the course is never done. I could learn something new in cohort 37 that I want cohort 38 to benefit from. And I really like this idea that a course is it's like your website.
It's feeding itself. So you're constantly getting feedback and you're constantly improving.
Exactly. And it forces you not to be too precious about any one asset because it may not be needed in the next cohort. And people don't really care. I think 20 years ago when it was a bit more multimedia. People were so used to, if they went to the cinema, it was incredibly professionally shot. Anything, you couldn't get anything on TV without a professional director and lighting and everything. But we're now so used to YouTube and TikTok. Our idea of what is acceptable viewing has just dropped, and not in a bad way. It's about the content. Is the content good? Is the person engaging? Is the information valuable? And that I love, is that there's a purity to that. It's, if you've got good information, you should be able to succeed, even if you don't have a home studio and all the best kit and lighting, all of that. So I think it's heading in a good direction.
Yeah, definitely. I want to wrap this up. Last week, you reminded me of something. I follow Alex Hormozy, and he went through all of his content that he created throughout his entire career, and he created tons of content.
Yeah.
And he compared the professional looking with the right lighting and different camera angles with the captions and whatnot versus the content that he used to deliver back in the days when he was looking at his screen, not even having a whiteboard, and it was just all about content. I'm not saying that his content now is not as good as it is, but when he compared the statistics on how many people converted back in the days and how many views and how many comments and how many engagement he used to get on his content, he clearly found out that the old content, when it was not all about how you're looking and maybe retake after retake, performed way better. It was a very good experiment. And you reminded me of this.
That's very heartening to know. Yeah. I'll end then just with a relevant quick thought, which was somebody showed me inside like a really high ticket course. I won't say exactly what it was. I think it was a selling course. It was a high ticket course. And the guy was behind it was clearly incredibly confident of the content. It was very well tested. But the content inside the course was so basic. It was in Kajabi, and it's even had some of the demo panels and headings and things that you get when you first install Kajabi. He couldn't even be bothered to change those because he knew the people who wanted the information would see past that. So it was so about the content and so not about the presentation that I like the confidence of that, because it was a course that was doing very well. And I would look at it and go, blimey, you haven't even changed the standard message.
No, definitely. There's a part where you have to focus on the presentation. I think it's important to design the way how people consume the content and they enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
But I think more than 80% of your job should be to deliver high quality content that delivers results and delivers upon the promises that you have made to your clients.
Exactly. And you could always make it slicker later on once you know that what you're teaching is getting results. Nobody's stopping you doing that. The one exception, if your whole brand is about being slick and all of your social media videos are perfectly lit and that you're very fashionable, if that's who you are in your marketing presence, people are going to get a shock if you're in your dressing gown and slippers shooting yourself with an old iPhone. So that would be the exception. But for most of us mere mortals, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep, that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to include contact information. Anyone who wants further information, or they want to ask you a question, or they want your free course, I'm going to include a link in the description of the video. I really would like to thank you for your insights. You're clearly very experienced. And I wanted to touch upon different topics which are of interest, and I wanted to ask you for your opinion about that. Thanks for your time, Glen.
Brilliant. It's been a ball. Thank you very much for inviting me.